Have you ever felt like you're piloting a plane in a hurricane, you know, where just the slightest bit of turbulence hits, maybe a passive-aggressive email, or getting stuck in traffic, or someone gives you some unexpected feedback,
Mhm.
and suddenly your whole internal system just goes into, like, emergency shutdown?
Yeah, that feeling is pretty common, actually.
Right. And emotional maturity, well, it isn't some fixed destination you magically arrive at after years of meditating or something.
No, not at all.
It's more like the quiet internal machinery, the calibration inside that dictates how we react or hopefully respond
Hmm.
to all the chaos and unpredictability out there.
Exactly. It's really the difference between being reactive, just going off instantly, and being responsive, choosing how you engage.
Okay.
And this deep dive we're doing today, it's not meant to be like a performance review, you know? It's more of a crucial check-in with your own internal state.
A check-in. I like that.
Because real maturity, it's about always learning, understanding your own triggers, what sets you off, and facing life with, well, honesty, real empathy, and deep self-awareness.
So it's not about being perfect.
Definitely not perfection. It's about understanding where you are on the path right now and critically where the opportunities are for growth, for developing that internal wisdom.
Okay, so let's unpack this then. We've got this powerful framework you mentioned, sort of a self-assessment tool, designed to map out our current emotional habits across 10 key scenarios.
That's right, a map.
And our mission today is to really analyze that whole spectrum of responses, from maybe less constructive to more wise, painting a mental picture of what these different levels of internal wisdom actually look like and feel like, especially in those high-pressure moments of everyday life.
Let's do it. Hashtag the inner compass mapping self-awareness. So first things first, we have to start with the foundation, that inner landscape, your internal world.
Right.
Because if you don't know the territory, you really can't navigate the weather when it hits, can you? The goal here is moving from, let's say, emotional confusion towards real clarity.
Okay, so starting with clarity,
Yeah.
emotional signals. When something genuinely upsets you,
Yeah.
how quickly do you figure out what you're feeling and maybe more importantly, why that specific feeling got triggered?
Mm-hmm.
Because at one end of the spectrum, you might just feel completely overwhelmed, like a total storm inside, but you have zero idea what actually caused it. You're just reacting.
Yeah, just noise. And that gap, the delay between the thing happening and you understanding your reaction, that's really the crucial measure here.
A delay.
Right. Someone just beginning this journey might live in that delay for a while, maybe taking days, even to piece together what actually set them off.
Okay.
But the emotionally aware person, they learn to use that emotion almost like data, a signal. They process it almost immediately. Okay, this frustration I'm feeling, that tells me a boundary was probably crossed, or maybe I'm feeling unheard right now.
That's a big difference. Using it as data. Now, here's where I think it gets really interesting how we handle pressure from the outside. Let's talk feedback.
Ah, yes.
Feedback.
Unexpected feedback. Maybe unwelcome feedback lands on your desk or in your inbox. What's that first immediate, flash response?
Well, the less mature response is usually rooted deep in ego protection, isn't it?
Totally.
We feel attacked, we get defensive, or maybe we just start mentally listing all the reasons why the person giving the feedback is completely wrong.
Guilty.
We see the feedback as like an attack on our identity, who we are, instead of seeing it as potentially useful data about something we did, an action.
But how do you actually make that separation in the moment? Because let's be honest, that sting is real. It's easy to say, don't take it personally, but you still feel that gut punch.
And that is the work. That's the practice. Maturity isn't about suddenly liking criticism. Nobody really enjoys it.
Right. It's about creating a pause, a little bit of space. You notice the sting, you acknowledge that defensive urge rising up, and then you consciously tell yourself, okay, I feel this, but I'm not going to react right now. I'll look at this data later when I'm calmer.
Okay, so create the pause.
Exactly. And the highest level of response here, it's actually seeking out that friction, actively asking for feedback because you understand deep down that it's often the fastest way to learn and refine how you operate.
Wow, okay. Seeking it out, that's advanced. Let's move on to another critical measure. Navigating the storm of stress. Emotional management under pressure. When the deadline looms, the crisis hits, what's your baseline behavior? What's your go-to?
Yeah, at the lower end of maturity, we often see pretty rapid destabilization.
Like what?
Well, maybe lashing out at people around you. or completely shutting down, becoming kind of paralyzed, or maybe just spiraling really quickly into worst case scenario, catastrophic thinking.
Yeah, we've all seen those, maybe even done them.
Yep.
But the mature response, what does that look like?
It's about clarity again. It's recognizing that stress mechanism kicking in that old biological fight or flight response, and then proactively using tools to regulate your system.
And it's more than just take a deep breath, right?
Oh, much more. It might be specific breathwork techniques or even physical movement to consciously activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the calming part.
Yeah.
Or maybe using journaling as a way to pour out the chaos onto the page so it doesn't just swirl around inside you.
External container, yeah.
It's really the difference between getting totally swept away by that wave of panic and knowing how to adjust your stance, find your balance, and kind of surf it. Maintaining that grounded clarity even when everything around you feels turbulent. Hashtag the relational mirror empathy and accountability.
And that surfing skill, that internal balance, it directly impacts the people around us, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Which brings us to the next section, how our inner state gets reflected in our relationships, especially when there's conflict or someone's in distress. So question 4 really dives into the heart of empathy. Showing up for others. Let's imagine a loved one is really profoundly upset about something, and it's got nothing to do with you.
Right.
What's the difference between taking their distress personally, making it about you, versus the truly mature response?
Well, the natural reaction, even if it's maybe less mature, is often to make it about ourselves, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I hate seeing you sad, let me fix it. Or maybe thinking, oh no, did I do something wrong?
Mm-hmm. We try to relieve our own anxiety by trying to change their emotional state.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Exactly. But the mature response here is the ability to simply hold space.
Hold space. What does that mean practically?
It means respecting their emotional process without projecting your own stuff onto it. It means resisting that powerful urge to jump in with unsolicited advice or solutions. It means you can be fully present with their pain without absorbing it yourself or feeling like you have to rescue them. Recognizing that their journey through this particular emotion, it's theirs alone. You're just there as a steady, calm presence in their storm.
A steady presence.
Oh,
I like that. That leads right into question 5, which raises a really important point. Owning mistakes and repairing harm. Especially when we're the ones who clearly caused the harm. How quickly do we shift from being defensive to actually trying to repair things?
yeah, this is a big one. Avoidance is often the hallmark of immaturity here.
How so?
We might deny we did anything wrong or avoid the conversation altogether or maybe rationalize our actions because the thought of being seen as a bad person is just too threatening for the ego.
Right, the shame kicks in.
Exactly. That avoidance is usually rooted in shame, that difficulty in separating the mistake we made from our core identity.
Okay. And what about the middle ground? I feel like I see this a lot, where people kind of admit they messed up, but they stop short of real accountability.
Ah, yes. That's often what I call confession, without real commitment.
Explain that.
They might say, okay, I'm sorry I did that, mainly to make themselves feel better, to alleviate their own guilt, but they struggle to take full responsibility for the actual impact their mistake had on the other person.
Gotcha.
So, the pinnacle of maturity here. It's fully owning the actions, sincerely apologizing for the harm caused, working diligently to actually repair the damage, whatever that looks like, and then crucially, committing to a real behavioral change, making sure that mistake actually serves as a profound lesson moving forward. Hashtag structure for growth boundaries and authenticity.
Okay, now let's look at the structural parts, the things that actually protect our maturity long term, setting limits and living authentically. This feels like where we stop letting the outside world dictate our internal peace.
Precisely. Question 6 zeroes in on setting and respecting boundaries. And the internal conflict here can be huge for people.
Why is that?
Often it's driven by a deep fear of rejection or maybe confrontation. So at the lower end of the spectrum, you have the person who chronically says yes when they really mean no.
Oh yeah, been there.
And that inevitably breeds internal resentment, right? And that feeling of constantly being ignored or maybe taken advantage of.
It's exhausting too because you're fighting this internal battle between what you want and what you think others expect. So what does the mature state look like with boundaries?
It's about being clear, but also kind when you set your limits, prioritizing your own peace and energy without needing to be aggressive about it.
Clear and kind.
But there's a deeper layer of maturity here too, which is reciprocity. It's not just about your boundaries, it's actively protecting your own well-being while also being really meticulous about respecting other people's limits, even when their boundary is maybe inconvenient for you.
Ah, that's key. Respecting theirs too.
It's a dual commitment,
Yeah.
self-respect and respect for others.
Okay. Question 7, then, addresses embracing change. Personal growth, by definition, is usually uncomfortable. So what's the difference between resisting change and actually welcoming it?
Well, the resistant person often feels stuck. They might actively avoid any kind of disruption because staying comfortable is their absolute highest priority. They see change almost as a penalty or a threat.
Whereas,
Whereas the mature perspective flips that entirely. You start to actively seek growth, you welcome transformation, even embrace challenges, specifically because you recognize that they are the delivery system for the deepest, most valuable lessons. Change becomes an opportunity, not an enemy.
viewing challenges as the delivery system for lessons. I like that framing. Okay, finally for this section. Question 8 looks at the pressure cooker. Conflict. When the stakes feel high, what's your go-to response? Your default setting?
The extremes at the low end are pretty simple, really. Either avoid conflict entirely, which just leads to simmering resentment and unresolved tension, or explode, using aggression, maybe raising your voice, trying to dominate or silence the other person. Neither of those actually leads to resolution, does it?
No, definitely not. So the skill here is moving from just reacting
Yep.
to actually resolving.
Exactly. It's the ability to communicate calmly, even if your heart is pounding out of your chest, and to prioritize finding mutual understanding over the need to be proven right.
Yeah, letting go of being right is tough.
It is. But the goal becomes resolving the conflict with empathy, with honesty, and with grace. Trying to actually strengthen the relationship through the conflict, not wound the other person. Hashtag tag the inner journey, self-compassion, and authenticity. Okay, now we dive into probably the most intimate relationship you have, the one with yourself. Question 9 asks, how do you actually treat yourself during hard times?
This is where I think many of us see the biggest disconnect, that compassion gap, right?
Yeah.
We can be so gentle, loyal, and supportive with our friends when they mess up or struggle. But inside our own heads, wow, we can be brutally critical, so harsh on ourselves when we fail or fall short.
It's true. And that harsh self-criticism, it's often the default setting, especially for high-achieving people. There's this mistaken belief that beating yourself up is somehow what drives improvement.
Right, like it's motivational.
Yeah, but it rarely is long-term.
Yeah.
The highest level of maturity here is making that shift, learning to show yourself the same unwavering grace and patience that you would naturally extend to your most beloved friends or family members.
So, treating yourself like a good friend.
Essentially, yes. It's recognizing that the pain of the failure or the mistake is already enough. You don't need to pile on layers of self-punishment on top of it.
Okay, that makes sense. And for the final question, question 10, we wrap up the analysis by talking about authenticity, living your real self. What's the difference between hiding who you are versus really showing up as yourself?
Well, the less mature response is often constant filtering. You hide parts of who you really are. You're constantly editing your opinions, your personality, maybe your sense of humor, simply to fit in or be accepted by whatever group you're with.
And that sounds exhausting.
It is exhausting. It consumes a massive amount of internal energy, keeping all those masks up.
So the goal then is to move towards living authentically.
Yes. And that doesn't necessarily mean sharing every single thought you have with everyone. It means being generally true to your values, speaking up about things that matter to you when needed, and gradually reaching a point where you're okay with the inherent discomfort that sometimes comes with being real.
The discomfort of being real.
Yeah, you start to realize that the occasional conflict or disapproval that might come from being authentic is actually infinitely easier to handle than the lifelong fatigue of pretending to be someone you're not. Hashtag tag the 5 stages of wisdom. What does this all mean? So if we take all these 10 habits, these 10 scenarios, and sort of connect the dots, we can see how they build on each other. We can synthesize the results onto something like a developmental map. Think of these stages not as fixed labels, but more like milestones on your journey towards inner wisdom.
Okay, a map. Let's start at the beginning then. If your responses mostly fell into the lower range across these questions, you might be in the stage of growing awareness.
Right. Characterized by pretty high reactivity, maybe some confusion in those high-pressure moments, you're really just starting to consciously reflect on your emotional world.
So what's the key tip if you're there?
It's fundamental, really. Start simple. Begin exploring your emotional vocabulary, just naming feelings. Hmm. And try consistent, non-judgmental journaling, just writing things down. You're basically beginning the process of internal map making, charting the territory.
Okay, map making. Then next.
Next up, we have building maturity. Here, you're definitely learning to handle emotions with more care, maybe more skill, but you still experience significant growing pains.
Like it's inconsistent.
Exactly. Maybe you react well, say, 60% of the time, but that other 40% still kind of blindsides you sometimes.
Right. Advice for this stage.
Get tactical. Identify one specific, manageable pattern you'd really like to change. Maybe it's that impulse to check your phone whenever you feel stressed, something small like that. And, this is important, try to surround yourself with emotionally honest people. People who model better responses can be really helpful.
Good point. Okay, moving up the map.
Next stage. You're emotionally grounded. You've built some strong foundational habits. Things like empathy, having stable boundaries, maintaining a growth mindset, these are becoming your default settings.
So pretty stable.
Yeah, generally stable and aware, but new or really intense challenges, they might still require significant focus and effort. So your goal now is to deepen those skills you've built.
How?
Tip here is lean into challenges that specifically stretch your current abilities, push the edges a bit, and maybe practice the often uncomfortable skill of assertive communication, finding that balance between passive and aggressive.
Okay, assertive communication. What comes after emotionally grounded?
Moving higher, we enter the emotionally mature stage. At this point, you are a genuinely grounded, emotionally intelligent person. You understand yourself pretty well, and you consistently show up for others with integrity, resilience. You bounce back.
Sounds like a good place to be. What's the focus here?
At this level, the focus often shifts slightly outward. Think about being a model for others, maybe mentoring. Nurture your own inner peace proactively, and consciously seek out opportunities for more complex relational repair when things go wrong.
Okay. And the final stage, the peak.
Finally, the highest range of responses lands you in the emotionally wise stage. This reflects a place of deep wisdom, radical authenticity, and profound compassion for yourself and others. You tend to lead with discernment, acting from a centered place almost all the time.
Wow. So what's left to do then?
At this stage, your role often evolves, maybe sharing your journey, being a guide or mentor in a more formal way, and a key focus becomes protecting the deep peace you've cultivated, while still managing to stay open and receptive to the unpredictable beauty and challenges of life. It's not about shutting down, it's staying open.
Okay. You know, the underlying truth, I think, of this entire deep dive is that emotional maturity, it isn't some final destination you check off a list.
Right, you said that at the start.
It really is a lifelong process, a commitment to showing up again and again, to do the internal work. So wherever you landed on that scale we talked about, just remember that every single choice, every question we discussed is a potential catalyst for reflection. Give yourself huge credit just for engaging with this stuff, honestly.
That's a great point. So what does this all really mean for you listening right now? The true value here isn't about calculating some score. It's more about the realization. Where do you still hold back? Where does that fear of discomfort maybe dictate your behavior more than you'd like, and why? Oh, here's a final thought. If you had to pick just one area from those 10 questions we explored, just one small habit, maybe even a single word you currently use to describe yourself when you're facing conflict or getting feedback or how you treat yourself, which one would you choose to consciously challenge and maybe try to change starting today? Just one small step.
Yeah, just take that one small intentional step toward developing that profound internal wisdom.